Yeah. Well, let's start. It's 11:30. We have a whopping three of us, but that's okay. Hi, Kevin Workman, my dear friend in Atlanta.
Hey,
How are you?
I am great. How are you?
Awesome. Have you read this book before?
I just read it this week. I saw you noticed it on Monday and I read it this week.
Yeah, it's a
It's
quick
awesome, isn't
read.
it?
It was really, really good. I really enjoyed it.
Awesome. So even though there's only three of us, some people might jump in and then we are recording it and we repost it on all of my social media platforms, and usually a few hundred people re-listen to this. So I love this book. This is, again, just like Barry, you said, this is the third time you're reading it. I think this is the second time that I've read it. The one major thing that I took away from this book the last time and this time was the whole, if you improve 0.5% each day, that in, I guess, 5 years, you've improved 3,000%. Like, I mean, and just think, if you just in 1 year, you improve like 500%. So 0.5%. How could we all not just do that? Like, that is so, sometimes you read these books and they're like, oh my gosh, that's overwhelming. I could never do that. Like read an hour a day, or, whatever, time block there. How do you not improve in some area of your life 0.5% each day?
It's kind of like, I actually had our company hosted we have an annual event for the top agents. There was a guy who came and spoke a few years ago, and it's actually similar to a post I did a couple of weeks ago related to Phil Mickelson winning the PGA championship. And what he talked about, he said, everybody in the room was successful. It wasn't like newbies. And he stressed, he said, I'm not going to talk to you about it. So when I talk with golfers, it's not like Phil Mickelson. He didn't need to reinvent his game. It was, how do you improve like a stroke over a round? And I mean, the difference between Tiger Woods in his prime and everybody else on the PGA Tour wasn't 20 strokes a round. It was like he was one, maybe two strokes better consistently. And that's the thing, that compound effect is all about consistency. So if you can prove, like in golf, one stroke, I saw you post a picture of Mario's scorecard. If you can improve one stroke around, the difference is enormous. It could be the difference between making the PGA Tour, not being a top 10 PGA Tour winner, or being an average PGA Tour player. It's teeny. It's like one stroke, one difference. So like you're saying, if one fraction of 1%, it's not, Beth, how do you get 1,000% better? You don't need to get 1,000% better. You're already really, really good. Can you improve a teeny tiny bit daily?
Right. It's the consistency.
Right.
It's, and it just is so many different areas of your life. Like, I don't drink enough water. And like, for me to go from not drinking enough water to the recommended 10 glasses a day, I like give up before I get there because it's so overwhelming. Right. But giving up diet soda, or again, if I say instead of 2 diet sodas a day, I'll give up, one, or whatever it is, teeny tiny on a consistent basis.
Yeah.
Is just so, and 0.5%. The question is, and do you just do that in one area of your life? And then, what I liked also, so we're doing the 100 miles in 30 days. So he talked about, I loved this. When you take on a new habit. So for me, I was walking 3 miles a day, a couple times a week. So so now I'm doing it every day because I'm trying to get 100 miles in 30 days. So he says, when you take on a new habit and you are doing well with it, so now I'm in my 11th day and I haven't missed a day. He said, it's very easy. And I don't think he explains why, but he says it's very easy to then give up a bad habit when you're doing a positive new habit. I think he just says you're very motivated when you're adopting a new habit consistently, like with me walking the 30 days every day, that you have an enhanced, and he talks about this, the difference between willpower and discipline, but he says you have an enhanced discipline and willpower. And this is the time to embrace that new found confidence in your willpower and discipline to then stop a bad habit for the 30 days.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say one thing that I've learned from that too, to take it a little bit further, is once you start to pick up a good habit and you work on that, you pick up other good habits that kind of fall into that. So same thing, so, recovering from COVID, I've been, working out like crazy now that I can get back out. And so I'm riding my bike, I'm going to the gym. And then, I really started eating healthier and really tracking everything I'm eating. And it's like all this is coming together. And one of the other points he made that I really, really liked was, you keep my FitPal where you're recording everything.
Yeah.
And that was such a big difference for me. And, if you are forced to write, every like cookie you grab real quick and you have to enter it, you stop and you don't take the cookie because I'm not going to put anything in my mouth. I don't put in my calculator here. And I can't believe how much stuff I've stopped eating because I don't want to take the time to put it in my phone. So I skip it. And it's really making a big difference in the last, I've only been doing this for a week, but it was just, I really got a lot out of this book.
Yeah. The tracking, what you can't improve what you don't measure, right? The tracking
exactly.
is crucial.
Absolutely.
And like you said, Kevin, the good habits, compound on each other, and the opposite's true too. So do bad habits. You're eating healthier, you're exercising, you're doing all those things. The opposite's true if you start, you're sedentary, you're lounging around, you're watching more TV. Yeah, okay, what's another can of soda or a beer? And that compounds on itself too. And
you're
you
going
feel like
to
crap, you're tired.
And you're going to sleep later because you're watching more TV. So you're getting less sleep. Then you don't get up early and get moving. It's all compounded.
Right. And you feel bad. So then you eat, a lot of people, let me have the dessert because I don't feel good. I feel bad about myself. So then, you just put on another 1,000 calories, and good and bad compounds. It does.
It's the compound effect.
Yeah. there was one, and it's kind of similar, Beth, you were talking about it. I get James Clear's email too. And it's similar. I saved it because it resonates related to this. He has 3 quotes. One of them is patience, which you could say consistency too, is a competitive advantage. In a surprising number of fields, you can find success if you're simply willing to do the reasonable thing longer than most people. And that's a lot of what Darren Hardy talks about. He'll even say, he's not, in his words, he said, I'm not the greatest. He said, but I'm the tortoise. He said, 99 times out of time, if I'm competing, I'm going to win because I'm just going to do it longer than you. I'm going to outwork you and I'm going to do it longer.
I love that. Yeah. A couple quotes I loved in the book. And this is kind of goes along with what you just said. Don't wish it were easier. Wish you were better. Oh,
right. Yeah.
Everyone wants the easy pill. I had a guy call me a couple weeks ago and he's like, the message was, can you call me back? I want to pick your brain about social media. So I said, sure. So I call him up. He goes, so we have a center that we need to get our loan closed. I have to lease 10,000 more square feet of local space in less than 30 days. So how do I do that in social media? And I said, 2 hours a day for 5 years. He wanted to do it faster and easier. There's no magic bullet here.
And that's where, along those lines, getting back kind of the same thing what I had just said too, along with what you're saying, Beth, the harder, I think he said before, the harder something is, he feels like he's going to win because again, 99 out of 100 are going to quit. They're not going to get to the finish line. He talks about like a marathon or a half marathon. Everybody's all excited and pumped up and waving their arms when it starts. And then, but how many finish? How many get to the finish line? And it certainly looks different when they do. And he said, if it's really hard, he said, I know I'm going to win because I'm going to stick to it.
And you hear so many stories like I went last week to Virginia to watch the She Has a Deal pitch competition. So young college women pitching real life hotel deals to get a $50,000 seed money. It was phenomenal. But they announced that at the beginning of the class, they had 54 women sign up. And by the end, there were 24. Similarly, during COVID, I hosted with Aaron Zucker a freshman forum where, we had people 5 years or less in the business where Barry, you were involved, we mentored these people. So through COVID, so that they didn't freak out if they lost their jobs and, whatever. We at the first call, I think there were 487 people. And by the last 3 meetings that we met, it was a consistent 34 people. And we had people from, the head of real estate of Ulta, and Aaron and I are like, how is it that we only have 34 people joining in on this free mentoring? It was crazy. It was crazy that, what is the mindset going on with, and let's say maybe half of them left the industry. So from 487, let's say 200 left the industry. How do we just get 34 people that could participate in a free 1 hour, learning from heads of real estate, of retailers and REITs? And so it's the stick-to-itiveness, right? I mean, Kevin is building or has built a farm or a vegetable flower garden, whatever it is in the backyard. That takes to plant the seed and keep that going. Kevin, you have to have consistency and commitment.
I do, and it's rewarding too. So, and I think that's a big part of it. Is you work hard, and then you see the benefits of what you're gaining, which I think takes us to another part of his book that was really, really helpful, was the gratitude assessment. So, the first thing I do in the morning to start my day is just basically, I started meditating, where I just actually just lay in bed before I jump out of bed and think about everything that's great, what I accomplished in this week, how I've accomplished it, and what I want to accomplish today. It's almost doing like my checklist in my mind. And so, a lot of those farm activities are on my list, and harvesting the honey that I just got, it's like you see those things, and you see all that hard work, all those bee stings, it's really worth it, and it's fun to do, and it looks beautiful.
It looks beautiful. You need to post some more pictures. But yeah, I think sometimes we don't stop and smell the roses, no pun intended. But we don't stop and think, what have we accomplished? And
Right.
if we did that more, I think that would help our mindset. Like, oh my gosh, I really did get a lot done during COVID or whatever. Here's a couple more quotes. Small, smart choices plus consistency plus time, so the length of the consistency, equals a radical difference. That goes back to the 0.5% each day over 5 years will equal a 3,000% improvement. And I always, 3,000 divided by 5, what's 3,000 divided by 5?
600.
600. So 600% improvement in a year. So if I just kept walking the 3 miles, or every day I walked 0.5% further, I would be 600% more healthy.
Well, I think you had that story of the gal that was really in horrible health and was talking about her friend that was running a half marathon and lamenting that she could never do that. And he put her on a path, like walk a block, and then he go a little bit further each day. And he said in a year, she was running half marathons. Like a year later, she was ran several marathons. And this is like Leah said, she could never run even a couple of miles. That's kind of what he had said, just like go a teeny bit further, like 1/10% every day further. And within a year, she's running half marathons.
Yeah, Kevin, were you going to add something there?
No, it was just in the gratitude part. One of the things that I thought was really good, which I just started doing this week because it was somebody's birthday last Sunday. So I thought this would be a great present to do. And so the journal where you mark what you're grateful about your partner or your husband, your wife, and just keep a log every day. So I'm putting that book together. And
are you doing that for next year?
Yes. So I thought that was just such a great idea. It shows so much good. I mean, it just is a great present. And you know what really is good about it, which he pointed out, is that it reinforces your relationship and what makes you happy every day and why you're really happy you're in this relationship. And I think that was a great
So
take
wait a
for this
minute.
book.
Have you started it now for next year?
Yeah, so I started this week, so I'm not that far into it. And
But you're keeping it a secret.
yes, I'm hoping he can't hear me in the other room.
Right. Oh, I'm so excited. Yeah. So for those of you that haven't read the book, what the author did is he wanted to improve his relationship with his wife. Like he wanted to improve his health and he wanted to improve his goals or his work or whatever. And he said, one of my goals is I want to improve my relationship with my wife. So he said, and I guess he said, what can you buy each other? We've been married 25 years or whatever. So I think, and you guys can correct me if I have the story wrong, but he took a journal and he wrote every day what he appreciated about his spouse. And he kept the journal for a year. And then at the following birthday or anniversary, gave it to her, and she bawled like a baby and said it was the best present he ever could. And that was what Kevin was saying, is it wasn't even the result of the book in the present, but it made him appreciate her so much more throughout the year, that their relationship became so much better before he even gave her the book, because he was telling himself every day what he loved about his spouse.
It absolutely works. It is amazing. It's really fun, and I'm really enjoying the process. Now I'm only a week into it, and I hope I can make it all the way to the end, but I think I will, because it really helps a lot.
Barry, you could do that with Elise.
I did that. He's done that. My wife is like very not a sentimental person. I did that. He does a Thanksgiving challenge. He had done that a couple of years ago, and I did do that for Thanksgiving, like for 30 days. It wasn't, I think it was 30 or 60 days. It wasn't a year, so it wasn't that in depth.
And she was like, oh, thanks.
Yeah, it was kind of like a card. Yeah, exactly.
I think Don's gonna love it, Kevin.
I do too. I really do.
Okay, here. Hi, Marisol and Lee. Marisol, did you read the book?
I have not yet. I just got the book after I saw your email and your post, and I'm like, oh, this sounds interesting. I want to join this book club. Because
so
I
good.
had just bought Winning from Tim Grover. And when I saw your post, I'm like, let me get that one and read that one before I go into Winning.
That's awesome. Hi, Lee.
Hi.
How are you?
Good.
Did you read the book?
No,
Exactly.
I don't have to read the book. My sister tells me all about them.
If you guys don't know, Lee is my sister. Okay, so here's a couple more quotes. Unsuccessful people carry their goals around in their head like marbles rattling around in a can. And we say a goal that is not in writing is merely a fantasy. Maricel, do you write your goals down? Awesome.
Every single day. And I keep a gratitude journal where I write 10 things that I'm grateful and happy for every single day.
Wow. How long have you been doing that?
I've been journaling for the past 5 years, and that is what has helped me heal and move on forward and take it to the next level where I'm at. I've come so far in the past 5 years.
Wow, that's amazing. There you go, Kevin. If she can do it for 5 years, writing down 10 things, you can for sure do one thing for a year.
It's actually fun. It's very therapeutic when you go through it. So yeah, I've been doing that too. So that's part of my meditation, is being what I'm grateful for every day.
And it gets you excited too, because as I drive to the gym in the morning, I go to the 5 a.m. class. I listen to my book on my way there. And there was something that I was listening again to Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. And there's chapter 2. It talks about faith and having faith, and how faith can get you so far, and like how people don't realize what having faith means. And he says it there as well, like, we don't realize that we have so much to be grateful for, and we take things for granted. It's like, look, right now I'm breathing. I have a sane mind, like I can balance myself. And then I started thinking, and I'm like, oh, wow, that's even more stuff that I can be grateful for. So I added that to my journal this morning too.
Well, I can tell you, Kevin mentioned that he had COVID. I had COVID a couple months ago. And one of the biggest one of the
I
biggest,
didn't have it. I was just locked down. That's why I was.
oh, gotcha.
Nope, I didn't go out of the house.
Okay. Well, I got it a couple months ago, and the hardest thing or the biggest impact for me was the lack of a lucid thought. Like I was in a fog for probably 12 days. And every night, and I did everything the doctors told me, all the wives' tales, everything. And I kept thinking every night when I would go to sleep, I'd say, okay, tomorrow, which is 8 hours from now, when I wake up, I'm going to have a lucid thought. And for 12 days, I would wake up and be in a fog. And I learned how to be grateful for my lucid thoughts, because I would be on a call with someone and I would I just can't, I got to hang up. I can't even think. I could not think. It was awful. And we all take our health for granted. We take our health for granted because we take for granted breathing easily, right? We take for granted things like that we do not see. And the minute you lose that, for whatever reason, it's like, oh my gosh. So gratitude. Yeah, he talks a lot about gratitude. Here's another quote that I liked. You alone are responsible for what you do, don't do, or how you respond to what's done for you. So you alone are responsible for what you do, don't do, or probably the most important one, how you respond to what's done to you.
That's made a big difference in my week too. So obviously I was out riding my bike, listening to this book actually, and I was on the Beltline in Atlanta. I'm racing down. I wasn't going that fast, but I'm on the half bike, which is a stand-up bike, which I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it's a hardcore workout. And so I'm on this half bike. This guy is walking his dog, and the dog kind of bolted, saw a squirrel and bolted in front of me. I had to slam on the brakes, flipped over, crashed. But this guy was so apologetic, so nice. Everybody came running over to help me. I chipped my tooth. I was just kind of I'm scraped up. Everybody's helping me. And I thought, how, at first I was like, that dog crossed in front of me. And then I thought, no, it's my responsibility. How could I have made this better? How do I take it from here? Because this guy is being super nice about what happened. How to make this my responsibility, and how am I going to keep it from happening again? And I just felt so much better after I changed that mindset and just I'm taking responsibility for my life and everything that happens to me and how I'm going to go through the day, and nothing is anybody else's fault. I guide it and I decide how it's going to go. And I think that's really helped me a lot this week as well.
Oh, well, I hope you're okay.
I'm good. I just have a scrape on my leg and I go to the dentist on Monday. So,
I was in Lake Tahoe a couple months ago, and we did a snowmobile tour. It's kind of like horseback riding, that you have a bunch of snowmobiles in a line and you go on this trail. And before we started, I turned around to this woman that was in kind of our subgroup. And I said, have you ever done anything like this before? And she said, no. You? I go, no. I said, how old are you? She said, 61. I said, okay, good. I'm 60. So, we're going to rock this. And she goes, yeah. So we do a 2-hour snowmobile tour. It's awesome. We're pulling into the hut area. We're at the starting gate, and we have to pull into a line. So everyone falls into a line. There's 8 people in front of me. I pull in behind the guy in front of me. She pulls in behind me. And as I'm getting ready to turn my snowmobile off, she rams the shit out of me. And my snowmobile flips over and she rides over me. Now, luckily, I have, 10 inches of clothing on. I have a big coat and I had a helmet, but one of her tracks under the snowmobile literally went over like my back. So she keeps going and hits another two snowmobiles. So everyone runs over to me, and some people went over to her, like, you know, the heads of the company, or they're getting her name and number because she just damaged 3 snowmobiles. And so all these people like, are you okay? You know, that we've got paramedics here. And I'm like, I'm good. You know, I just wanted my helmet off. But I was fine. I got up, I had an instant headache. I said, I'd love some aspirin. So I'm okay. She never comes over to me to say she's sorry or anything. We go get on the bus. On the way there, she was sitting with us because she was part of our like subgroup. We're now driving back to like the main office. She doesn't come up to me. Everyone's coming up to me on the bus. Are you okay? She's sitting in the front of the bus. And I'm like, this is bizarre that this woman has not come over to say, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, this is just so bizarre that there's something wrong, right? So I get up and I go to her, and I just want to let you know I'm okay. And she's sitting in the front of the bus, tears streaming down her face. She said, I'm so embarrassed. And I'm like, well, it's okay. I'm okay. She goes, I'm so sorry. And she was like shaking. And Kevin, I kind of felt the way that you did. Like, people are like, they were in the back of the bus going, you know, what a bitch. She hasn't come. I go, I think there's something wrong. Like it just was wrong that she wouldn't have come. Right. So I took it. I didn't want there to be this rift for the rest of the weekend about, you know, that she ran over me. So I went up to her and I hugged her and I said, it's okay. I'm fine. Don't worry about it. But so the same kind of example of, you know, it's how you respond to things that happen to you.
Yes, absolutely. And the fact that, you know, and she was so embarrassed she couldn't talk to you about it. And so sometimes you have to reach out and you realize that they are a good person, and it's just, you know, be responsible of everything that happens in your life. So that's
well,
good.
and I just think communication is so important, right? Like I could just visualize if we didn't communicate, this was going to grow bigger than it needed to be. Right. It would have blown up kind of. And I just said, you know, and I went back to the back of the bus. I said, come back and sit with us. And she goes, no, I'm fine. So I went back to the bus and like, what's up? I go, she's very upset. You know, she's, you know, she's really shaken, and that's okay. So we're all good. You know, I'm fine. It's no big deal. But it was a little different than your guy who was, you know, all there to help you. But,
no, and that made a big difference. The fact that he tried so hard and was so apologetic. I mean, and his dog was actually a very well behaved dog. It just saw a squirrel and crossed in front of me at the wrong second. So, you know, but I really felt good about it, that people are really good, very nice. And what can I do in the future to not be that vulnerable? So I think that's all things you can learn and make it positive.
Yeah, and here's a quote that kind of supports that. Same in the book. We can all make powerful choices. We can all take back control by not blaming chance, fate, or anyone else for our outcomes. It's within our ability to cause everything to change, rather than letting past or current or ongoing hurtful experiences sap our energy and sabotage our success. We can use them to fuel positive, constructive change. Maricel's nodding. Right? Take back control.
It's so true though, because sometimes I always says, since the moment I met you and like had that opportunity to speak to you and all that, you're such an amazing being. Like you're always happy. You always have that energy that you share with others. And like, it's like taking accountability of everything. Like what you did was amazing, because anger and shame is like a secondary effect to sadness, anxiety, fear. Like that lady was probably so full of fear, and by you doing that just made her realize, like, you know, it's okay. She didn't do it on purpose, obviously. She doesn't want, you know, and like you said, it could have escalated. If you wouldn't have taken that opportunity to go speak to her and tell her it's okay, that who knows what you would have went home thinking of, like, oh my God, this lady's horrible. And that other lady would have went home thinking like, oh my gosh, that lady probably hates me, you know? And you just cut all of that right before it escalated to that part.
Well, I'm not always happy. My sister can attest to that, but I am always funny, which she says I'm not, but I am. Kevin, I'm very funny. Aren't I funny, Kevin? Tell my sister I'm funny.
I can tell a story about you. The first time I met you, I was scared to death of you. Do you remember that? You were at Terra Nova, and I was, back in my Home Depot days, and I was just, you were just so brilliant and powerful, and I was just scared. So, and then we became best friends, so it's been great, and I love it.
BFFs, BFFs and limo rides.
Yes, and interrogations. Yes, I remember that. Yes.
Someone just said to me, one of my coaching clients, we'll get off me for a second, but I do like to talk about me. But anyway, one of my coaching clients said yesterday, if people knew how nice you were, I'm like, what does that mean? Well, you're very tough and you have a very tough reputation. And I'm like, okay. But she goes, if they knew how sensitive and how giving and how nice you were, I go, well, tell them. So, all right, let's go back to the book. But I am funny, even though my sister doesn't think I am. Every time I make her laugh, I go, you see, I'm funny. Mark that down. Okay, seek out positive people. So Barry and I just did this morning. So and Barry, you can talk about this. Seek out positive people who have achieved the success you want to create in your own life. Remember the adage, never ask advice of someone with whom you wouldn't want to trade places. So Barry, share our little group that, we meet with on a regular basis.
Yes, we've got a little group you organized, I guess, 4 or 5 years ago at this point, that we're all working in social media. We're all in real estate, but working in growing our presence in social media. And it's all, people that are doing it, and they're successful in real estate and doing good things in social media. And they're folks, like you said, it's not a newbie or somebody that is, it's somebody we'd actually want to learn from, and people we admire too, as much as anything. I mean, they're good people, and so that's a big part of it also. And
they're giving, right? We're a very big sharing group. We come to the meeting, we try to meet once a quarter. It's a little weird with COVID, but we say, what worked over the last quarter, what didn't work, and what are we going to try new this quarter? And then we try to keep each other accountable, right, Barry?
There's one person in particular that does a lot of that.
Yeah, I become the nag. Well, when they say they're going to do something, Marisol, isn't it my job to nag them about why they didn't do it? We did some nagging this morning.
And why do you not do it? And the question is doing it consistently. I mean, we kind of ended up talking about this book a little bit in there. So 1/2 of 1%,
right? 1/2 of 1% every day. The ultimate, here's another quote. Here are my two. There were just so many great quotes. The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of a challenge, right? That's what they say. They say that, like, when people make money, they're not better people. They're just more of what they are. I think that's the same thing in the opposite. When they have a challenge, they're more of what they are. They're a kind, giving person in times of a challenge, or if they're a jerk, they're the same jerk, whether they won the lotto or whether they had a tragedy. I listened to this part of the book yesterday, so it's fresh in my mind. He talked I kind of, now that, this was written several years ago, but he talked about Lance Armstrong, and now I kind of look at things a little bit differently. But he talked about, during the mountains phases and stages, Lance Armstrong looked forward to the period where he knew it was going to be really, really challenging, because he knew that's when he could break away, which again, now maybe there's a reason for that, but it's kind of that part. He waited for one day he'd go out and it was like freezing rain and he was all
stoked because I mean, he said he knew it was gonna be miserable, but he knew he would fight through it, and he knew the others were gonna just kind of struggle all day and didn't want to do it. So he saw it as a chance. Now I'm gonna get ahead of everybody because the weather's nasty and we're in the mountain phase and it's cold and it's a tough times when he knew he would break ahead of everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah. Just like at times in a recession or COVID or, times where we're at a conference and everyone's leaving to go to the cocktail party. And I see Barry and I are still walking the show, right? We're walking the floor. One more call, right? The ones that stick it out.
And it's doing that consistently. If you do that one more call every day, I mean, I've read sales books and they talk about one of the key, one of the big tricks, do one, when you're packing into the bags, go back to your desk and do one more call. And I can't say I've done that a lot or consistently, but you could see that. I mean, okay, so that's 250 extra calls a day. And you're kind of using your belief in canvassing karma. That's probably gets you, that's the one call that probably is going to be more times than not the really, really good call in reality.
Absolutely. Especially, yes, Kevin, he did go to UGA. He is a bulldog through and through.
Kevin or
Barry? Kevin's.
Okay. Yeah, I just looked you up, Kevin, in LinkedIn, and I think are you with Floor and Decor? Is that you?
I was, yeah. No, I
okay, gotcha. Yes, I went to UGA as well.
Good. I was actually the mascot, like in the early '80s, a long time ago.
You don't look like a bulldog anymore. You became a human.
I did.
You were Harry Dog?
No, that was a sad story. I was the dog before Harry Dog. They introduced Harry Dog. I tried out, got the position, and then they said, "Oh, by the way, we're bringing this new dog, but he's just temporary. It's just a promotion. Don't worry about it." And of course, we saw where Harry Dog went and where my dog was retired.
I remember your dog. I've been a lifelong, so I remember your dog. They brought out Harry Dog for the national title game.
Yes.
And he never left. Yeah, he never left.
He stayed. They retired my dog, but I was tired of that.
Funny.
Yeah. So.
Kevin's a retired man of leisure, but he's doing bees and gardens and many, many, many things.
And probably starting a new career here. Actually following you and learning how to set up a new business. So it's going to be like Leafy Lifestyles, which is all about garden design and fun things.
So kind of going back to your no pun what is it? No pun intended, back to your roots.
Yes, back to my, since I'm a landscape architect, I thought, it's kind of, when things got stressful at work, all I would think about is plants and animals. And, I just kind of get to the point where I just have to do this every day. So I'm just happy every day. So, and now I'm learning all this social media stuff. Usually I had a department that did all that stuff for me. And now it's trying to figure all that out. It's been interesting and it's been fun. So.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And think about it. 0.5 of 1% every day, you'll be 600% further along in a year.
Yeah. And that was one of my entries in my journal was why I'm thankful for my husband is he's a great editor. So he edits a lot of my work that I'm doing and you spelled that wrong. Do this, do that. You need a comma here. So it's wonderful to have that. Usually I get mad that he corrected me, but now I'm just like, what would I do without this? So
there you go.
Yeah. Going on to one of the other things you said about the meetings that you had, I thought the other thing he said was surround the 5 people that are the closest to you all the time have the most impact on you. And I think that's really true when I think about it. I mean, I'm fortunate that I have a lot of good people around me, but there's been times in my life where there's been that one person that's just very needy and it kind of pulls it kind of pulls you down and it's tiring to try to constantly baby them when you could, surround yourself around better people or just more what you aspire to be. And I think that's a great, especially as we come out of COVID, is really surround yourself around people that you admire and that you want to be a part of. So.
And that lift you up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no is a complete sentence, I find. In the last 2 or 3 years, I was involved in a lot of boards. And I kind of took a look and said, okay, I've given back a lot. But do I like these people that I'm doing all of this charity work with? And they're pleasant people, but I just said one at a time. I started saying, I've been on this board for 10 years. I think it's time for the next generation to take over and, let me move along and open up some spaces. And it's been very freeing to have the time and not the responsibility. And now only have, instead of 5 different charity things I'm involved with, really, I'm kind of down to 2, which is awesome. So that I can either, get an extra massage a week, or hang out with the kids, or go golfing, or read a book that I love to read, or sit in my backyard, or whatever. But I think that sometimes we get on these hamster wheels, and I need to do this, I have to do this, or and you get, and it does call to your ego. If someone calls and says, you'd be great on this board, right? And you have to say, why am I doing this? So I've been happy that I did it and I gave back, but now I think it's, when I turned 60, I said, everything I do, I want to do because I enjoy doing it, and not that I feel obligated, or, like I said, no is a complete sentence.
Yep. I totally agree with you. And I think that's so true. I know I'm at that point too, being 61 is like, it's time for me to have fun from now on.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, people, Barry and I, we were talking about this morning. People call, they want to pick our brain. It's someone needs to come up with a better, verb, sentence, whatever for that, because it's just awful. But Barry, I told Barry and I talked about it. I said, you know what I do? I say, yes, no problem, 7 a.m. That literally eliminates 80% of brain pickers.
I have to move that to 6. I'm toying with the idea that you move that to 6 a.m. or is that obnoxious?
No, I don't think it's obnoxious. They want to pick your brain. That's when your brain is the most alert, because you're up at 4:30. So brain pickers, 7 a.m. or nothing. It's amazing how many people drop out when you say, they go, no, how about 1? I go, I'm in the middle of my day at 1. I can't be, I need, my brain needs to be available for work at 1 o'clock. A daily routine built on good habits and discipline separates the most successful among us from everyone else. A routine is exceptionally powerful. So let's go around the room if you want to participate. What is a routine that you do every day that you think contributes to your happiness or your success or your accomplishments? We'll start with Barry. What's a routine you do every day?
I'd say I think of one thing every day. I would get up early, just consistently. And he talks about this, I think, in the book, but definitely an insane productivity is just, and I think is where you're going to also, is just bookending your day, which is something I'm working through that some. But I'd say part of that would just be, I get up early every morning.
Great. Marisol.
I have everything like on my Outlook, but I get up at 4 a.m. The first thing I do is I do my gratitude of thank God I woke up. I pray. I do like a 10-minute meditation of just gratitude, or like just being present. Then I drive to the gym. I do my 5 a.m. workout. I come back. I make some breakfast. I shower. I get my 6-year-old ready. Now that there's no school, I don't have to be a teacher anymore, which I retire from being a teacher. 1 year into it, I'm done. I give up on it. And when school was on, I would teach her from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. And then I take a 30-minute break to just unwind from the teaching mode. And I get on the phones and I get meetings and schedule stuff for work. And I'm on the phones till like 7:30 p.m. And then I make some dinner for her, give her a shower, do another like meditation as I'm showering to be able to unwind from the day and not, and then I come into my office and I write everything that I have to do tomorrow. So I don't go to bed thinking about like, oh my God, what do I have to do tomorrow? So I write everything down, and then in the morning I do it all over again, and I check off what I have to do.
I'd be falling asleep at 7:30 if I got up at 4. Or I'd have to take a nap in the afternoon for sure. You're a rock star, all of that. God bless you.
I love it because I feel like that's my only me time. Like I don't have no one asking me questions. I don't have no one asking for anything. I don't have anyone telling me to cook or clean anything. So I feel like when I get up at 4, it's just so amazing because I'm like, this is all my time. Like I get to do what I like to do. And I've created that habit, and it's so, like, I'm so glad I do it because I can't tell you, like, it's probably been not even a handful of times where I haven't been able to get up at 4 a.m. because I'm either sick or something. And it just blows my day off because I feel like when I'm done with the gym and I come home at 6 a.m., I feel like, man, I've accomplished everything before everybody got up this morning. So I'm like ready to go, and I'm waking everyone up like, good morning, rise and shine. And my 17-year-old daughter is like, Mom, it's 6 a.m. What do you mean rise and shine?
That's funny. That's funny. Kevin, besides your gratitude and meditation, before you started that a week or so ago, what was a routine that you did?
So back when I first saw you were doing your book reviews, I was reading a book called Why We Sleep, which is a big change for me. And so sleep becomes my most important thing of my day. And, you know, it's like, don't interfere. I've got to have my at least 8 hours, 9 hours of sleep. And that's what works for me. And I noticed that, like, when I used to work out a lot all the time, you know, if I wasn't getting the sleep, I didn't get the gains or the progress that I needed. And so reading this book of Why We Sleep is very helpful as well, and just teaching you what goes on in your head during the sleep process, and why it is so critical that you get that sleep to renew yourself and make it to the next day. So
You know, I'm going to add that to our 2022. We did one this year on breathing. You know, so every year I like to do something that's a book that takes us out of, you know, the more mental self-improvement and does something physical. So I will add that. I know that, I think it was in the book last month, I don't remember which, but it was recent, where we talked about, and I learned, which I didn't know this, they talked about how when you work out, yeah, this was in the 5 a.m. club, which I think was our last book. He talked about recovery so much. And he said, you should have 2 90-minute massages a week. And I was like, I don't care anything else from the 5 a.m. club book, but so I felt guilty doing 1 90-minute a week. So I now, ever since I read that book, you know, I was doing like a 90-minute every, like maybe twice a month. I'm now doing it every week religiously. That gave me the permission. But what he taught me, which I didn't know, is he said, and I'm not a big workout person, obviously, but I'm becoming an athlete because I know how much important words are. So I am an athlete at 60, but I've learned that when you're an athlete, and Olympic athletes to, you know, amateur athletes, the time that your muscle strengthens is in the recovery period, and how important the recovery period is. So if you use your mind every day and for me, 6 hours isn't enough. I've learned that I need at least 7 to have my brain recover and be better performing the next day. And I never knew that. Like, I never knew that muscle thing, that muscles, when they're in recovery state, is when they improve.
And I think I mentioned before, I have done Insane Productivity, which is also a Darren Hardy program. I don't think he covered it in Compound Effect, but in there he has like a whole session on recovery and the need for recovery and rest, and he said he takes days and weeks and even months off. And he said that's something he really stresses for folks to, you know, create that margin to take, days, totally disconnected days. And he referenced it. He said with Olympic athletes, or I've heard like, big NBA players talk about it. He said, coaches of an Olympic athlete, he said, the hard part is getting them to rest. He said, it's not getting them to come to the gym. He said, that's ingrained with them since they were a kid. He said, stressing the time off, because that's when they don't take time off, they're never going to get to where they're trying to get to. It's the recovery they have to have.
Well, one of the other things that they pointed out was that, if they took sets of college kids and they would go through and teach them something, and then they would immediately take the test after that when it's fresh in their head, and they took the other part of the group, they would teach them the same information. They got to sleep and take the test the next day, and they actually performed better when they slept. So they think there's something to the sleep process, that your mind is actually kind of almost like a computer reorganizing the storage in your head and kind of putting that in, and then your dreams are kind of in some way possibly giving you that information you just learned and locking it in to your memory. And so it was really, it's kind of technical, but it was really a fascinating book. So I highly recommend it.
We're gonna add that the breathing book was so different, but I learned a lot about breathing in that book. I learned a lot. So Lee, do you have a routine that you do every day that you want to share with us?
When I'm having my first cup of coffee in the morning, which is about 2 minutes after I wake up, to get my blood flowing, I do a list of what I want to accomplish that day. And I accomplish so much more by doing the list than if I don't do the list. And that's important.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Good job. I have a lot of things I wish I did consistently, but I would tell you what I do absolutely consistently every day of my life is I have my coffee in the morning and I read 2 or 3 newspapers, and I love it. I learn, I then share it on social. I use it in meetings, and it educates me. I avoid all of the, like, I don't read the articles about, and I watch CNBC. So I'm just in the morning, I should do prayers and meditation. I don't. Sometimes I do gratitude, but I consistently wake up. I'm excited about the day, and I want to know what's happening in the world business-wise. And it's kind of, when I don't do that, if I'm traveling and I have my coffee and I don't have my newspapers, I'm off the whole rest of the day. I'm off. So I do try to do other things that are routine, but that's the one that has stayed consistent and is part of my life, and I love it.
One other I'll add, and for anybody that did like this book, and part of my routine, Darren Hardy, he has, if you Google it, Darren Daily, Darren Daily, he has, and as part of, he says to be your morning routine, because he sends it out in the morning. They expire after 72 hours, like a 3-minute to 5-minute short video. I can't imagine. I mean, Beth, we talked about like social media, the hours he must put into these. Because if you look at them, they're produced, he's got to rehearse them, they're professionally done. But if you subscribe, it's free. You get one every business day, just short and great, motivating, something to think about for that day. If Compound Effect resonated with you, otherwise you probably wouldn't be here, I highly recommend it. Again, there's no charge, and you just get them to your inbox every day.
All right, so let's wrap up, because I always like to get you guys out by 12:25. The next book in July is My Father's Business by Cal Turner Jr. And it's the story, the small town values that built Dollar General. Dollar General's in the news a lot. For those of us in real estate, they're flipping, their triple net leases and buildings are flipping at we've seen 5.1, 5.2 cap rates. So they're in the news a lot, Dollar General. So every year I like to do one book on a retailer. So that's our book for July. And thanks you guys for such a great discussion today. I appreciate the participation.
Well, thank you. This was wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is
All
all
right.
You always put together awesome things.
Have a great rest of your week and month, and I'll see you next month.
Thanks.
Love you.
Thank you. Take
Love
care.
you guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.